Welcome to my office. This is my pride and joy. This is my bookshelf, comprised of some of my favorite books. Now, many of you know we just moved to Australia from the United States, and believe it or not, we managed to come here with about 600 pounds of books. Not all of those were mine. A lot of those were my husband's or my kids', but quite a few of them were mine. And recently on Instagram, I did a little quick glimpse into my bookshelf, and I had so many messages, people asking me, give me a closer look. I want to see what titles you have in your bookshelf. So that's what this video is. You get a up close look at my bookshelf. So let's take a peek. I'll do a little bit of a closer glimpse into some of these books here in a minute. I'll turn the camera around and hold it and let you write down titles as I scroll through. But I just want to go through a couple of these and hit some highlights. So in the first section of my books, I have divided them into my homeschool books. So I'm just going to go kind of through the different categories that I have and then show you some of my favorites. So homeschooling starts with this one, Educating the Wholehearted Child by Clarkson. Sally Clarkson helped him. I love Sally Clarkson. Anything by her is gold. But this is like the official manual on homeschooling. It is going to take me a very long time to get through this. It's a piece by piece kind of book, but man, is it packed with good information, practical things, and so much biblical wisdom. If you're a homeschooling parent, you will want to invest in this resource. Then I have some other ones. I loved Call of the Wild and Free. That was a really good one. Oh goodness, so many good ones. Adventuring Together by Greta Eskridge. I just finished reading this book, The 4-Hour School Day by Dorinda Wilson. So good. Highly recommend this book. I'm still mulling over the things that she said in it and applying them to our homeschooling. Packed full of good stuff. Another Sally Clarkson book, Awaking Wonder, one of my favorite books on homeschooling as well. Then that transitions me into a whole portion of my bookshelf that is Sally Clarkson books. She deserved her own spot. She's the only author on my shelf that has her own spot. But I have several of her life-giving books. So we've got The Life-Giving Home, Life-Giving Parent, Life-Giving Table. I love The Life-Giving Table. Super great book on family and home and hospitality and home culture. And then I kind of transition into just a few just home living things. Then I have my marriage section. The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman is a great book resource. So then I transition into some like women's issue books. I could not recommend this one enough, Even Exile. If you ask me what my favorite books are, that's a really hard question to answer, because one is ever evolving because I read so much, and 2, there are just so many good books out there. But Even Exile is always going to make the top of the list. Rebecca Merkel does a deep dive into the history of feminism and contrasts that with biblical womanhood and gives a challenge and the call to women today to rise up and to stand on God's word and God's principles and be the women that He created us to be. Super great resource. Then we transition into some different health books. This is such a good book on women's health. I know it's long, but it's very chapter specific. So you can only read the things that pertain to you if you want to, but I'll be perfectly honest, I sat down and read the whole book in a very decent amount of time, considering how I thought it was going to take me a long time, being the content being more health and wellness and the size of this book. But I got through this so quickly. I am going to go through it again with my girls when they get to the puberty age. Helps so much. I was like around 30 years old when I read this book, and I can't believe that it took me 30 years to figure out things about my body and how my body worked and how God created my body. This is such a great resource. Which leads me into the next book that this author wrote, which is the Hormone Repair Manual. So this is like for 40 plus. When I got this book, I thought, oh, that's way down the road for me. And then I saw 40 and I thought, well, that's like a decade. That's not that far. So I have not read this book yet, but it is on my in the next decade read this before I enter that phase of life. Coming down, I have some different resources just on Christian living, devotionals, Bible study resources, several different things. I love, love, love this book, What Do I Know About My God by Marty Collier. One of the most influential, life-changing books I've ever read, helping me learn more about who God is, his attributes, and that has trickled into so much of my life, of the message that I try to share with other women as they teach truth to their generation, to their children, even into my hymn book, Great Hymns for Growing Hearts. So much of the depth of getting into the character of God was really challenged in my heart as I read this book. Just some other different books here. Respectable Sins, went through a whole study on my podcast by Jerry Bridges. Super phenomenal book. Really enjoyed this one. Obviously, Elizabeth Elliot is on my bookshelf. Some really good books by Elizabeth Elliot. Gentle and Lowly is a really good book. I know a lot of people have read that, but it was a really good glimpse into the heart of Christ and leaving him high, holy, and exalted, yet showing his understanding of humanity by taking on the robes of man and the heart that he has for us as sinners. Another really good book on Christian living is A Shepherd Looks at Psalm 23. This is a resource that I'm using this year in my podcast as we're studying through Psalm 23. Not a very long book, but man, is it good. It needs to be on your bookshelf. I love this one. I have some different little books from Rand Hummel that I got years and years ago. But these are really good resources. This one deals with a pornography addiction, if you struggle with anger, and this one is with fear. More like Bible counseling type books, but really good. Rand Hummel's one of my favorites. Then we transition into parenting, motherhood, family life, and Simeon and I read this book last year by Vadi Bakum. It was so good, so helpful. We listened to it on audiobook actually, so I had to get the hard copy. We're going to go through this again because it had so much helpful information in it. Then I've got my Mama Bear Apologetics book, and I actually have my other one on my desk. I was doing some studying for a podcast earlier. So every bookshelf, every mom needs to be prepared and equipped to teach their children not only God's word, but make them aware of the lies of culture and how we need to stand against that in today's day and age. And these books help you. This is the first book they did, Mama Bear Apologetics, talking about so many of the isms that we see in today's day and age, Marxism, feminism, so many of those. And then this is their second book that they did, their Guide to Sexuality. Such helpful resources. Really, I have so many different books on parenting. I mean, I could just go through and highlight so many of them. Let me pull out just a couple. Love-Centered Parenting by Crystal Payne. Very, very good book. That was helpful. Ginger Hubbard. Let's see, this one's Ginger Hubbard. And this one is Ginger Hubbard. Great resources on helping teach your kids from the Bible. Are you struggling with whining in your house, tattletaling, lying, fighting? These give you a Bible answer to help your children through these different areas. So then I transition into just some other biography type resources, some biographical books for the kids that they aren't quite old enough for yet, but that I'm hanging on to for when they get a little bit older. Evidence Not Seen is a great book. I read this last year, and I always keep a book highlight on my Instagram. So if you want to check that out, go to _calling_ on Instagram, and you can see in my highlights that I have a book highlight for each year with the books that I read. I read this one last year and got so many messages from you all saying that this was one of your favorite biographies. So this is a really powerful story about just her trust and her service to Christ in the midst of some really horrific circumstances. So those are some of my books. A few other resources that I have is this Daily Promise Bible. I really enjoyed this Bible. This is like a devotional thing. You would go through 365 days, so you go through it in a year. It has an Old Testament passage that you read. It has a New Testament passage that you would read. It has a little bit of wisdom literature, so from Psalms and Proverbs, and then it has a promise from God's Word. This was great. I worked through this in a year. And now that I'm pulling out, I'm reminded I probably need to do this again. This was a very encouraging way to work my way through God's Word. I loved this resource. Another Bible resource that I love is my Journal the Word Bible. I get asked often what my favorite Bible is, and it is definitely my Journal the Word Bible. This one is in the box because it is a brand new one. Before we moved over here from the States, I picked up another one because my other one is getting full and I want to start a fresh new one. But this is a great Bible resource. So beyond that, down at the bottom, I just have some different music resources, music books that I enjoy, and then the very bottom holds all of my No Higher Calling inventory that is currently in Australia. So I'm going to turn this around and just kind of give you a slow view as I walk through the different books. If you want to jot these down, you can go to my website, which is nohighercalling.org, and I have several different blog posts where I've broken up the years into quarters, what I've been reading. It has all the links there if you want to find some of the direct links for these books. But I hope this gives you some ideas of something to read. I love to read. It's a passion of mine. I have learned so much through investing more time into reading. And I know that a lot of you have that same goal for your life as well. And I always love getting book recommendations. So as much as I love getting them, I thought I should share some of them. And some of your messages just prompted me to do that a little more. So I'll give you a closer look into my bookshelf. All right, here you go. Here is your closer look into my bookshelf. So this is the top row. So here we've got kind of education books, transitioning into Clarkson books, which I realized I have misplaced one of them. There's another Clarkson book down below. Marriage, hospitality, just some different issues, counseling, then health, and there's the random garden book at the end. But that's a really good resource if you're into gardening. So there's that row. Thrift books is a great resource. You might see some of those barcodes on some of these. I really like thrift books for finding books on sale. We've got some daily grace resources here. This is my Christian living. Here at the end with family-driven faith, we're transitioning down into more parenting resources. All right, so down here we have all of my parenting resources. I'll try to zoom in close. So somebody asked me if I have read all of these books. I've probably read about 75% of them. So several of them can't fully vouch for because I haven't gotten to yet. If you have any specific questions, you can message me on Instagram or email me at nohighercallingpodcast@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to talk with you more about any of these books. So these are some more of the biographical upper level books from when my kids get a little bit older. Then we've just got music resources, gather around homeschool curriculum, and then all my No Higher Calling things. So that's my bookshelf.